of Alexander Partners Sort My Life Out Surgery. I'm your host, if you can call me that, and I'm also a resident advisor. My name is Dr. Ambrose Neal. Lots of people just call me Doc for some unknown reason. Alexander Partners, what do? We provide career coaching, mentoring, and ironically, exam prep for individuals like yourself, young individuals, people of the age, let's say from 16 up to about 24, 25. Our team of career capital specialists have over 20 years of experience of providing support to young people as they transition from students into the world of work and begin to build their career capital. What is career capital? Simply put, all those things that make you who you are, all those things that potential employers like about you, pull that all together into a nice big bundle, and that basically we can define very loosely as your career capital. So remember those occasions when your mother and your father, your parents said, "Got to play the piano, don't forget to practice." And then you practice under duress, and then eventually you got to, let's say, grade 5 or 6, and then you think, "Oh, great, I've got to 5 or 6." And then you apply for jobs, and at the age of 18, employers like that because to play a musical instrument strongly suggests that you have the ability to keep on working, you've got a stickability, and all those other things. Ironically, music is also good in terms of developing different parts of your brain, but that's by the way. So we basically work with young individuals to help them to build their career capital, and we do that over a period of time. So, sort my life out. This is an outreach to young people who are leaving school or recently graduated to get their burning questions answered in an in-depth manner by, I hate to say this, experienced coaches and mentors like myself. Each session will focus on a particular theme that we hope our viewers, you, will be able to benefit from. This week's topic is very simple: final year frustrations. And we will be taking questions regarding the worries and difficulties of students in the final year of GCSEs, A levels, and at universities. Not forgetting, of course, also those who are completing their apprenticeship. So that's enough about us. Now, let's talk about yourself. Feel free to join the conversation and submit your questions in the chat box, which is somewhere on the screen. If you have other questions about this or Alexander Partners, please visit our website at alexanderpartners.org.uk. That's alexanderpartners.org.uk. So let us start off with the first question. Right. First question is, what is the difference between an internship and apprenticeship? There are many differences in terms of an internship and apprenticeship. Internships tend to operate uh, uh, on the basis of someone is actually working within the organization. It's like a long interview, and it can last for, say, a month, 3 months, could even be a whole year. You're thrown into the deep end, hopefully, depending on the company that is running the internship, and they'll be expecting you to rise to the challenge. When we compare that with an apprenticeship, apprenticeships tend more to be geared towards preparing you to deliver a specific job, a specific task. There is believe it or not, a significant difference in terms of the pay. Interns can get paid up to £1,000 a week, depending on the organization and depending on the level of the internship. For example, if you are fortunate enough to win an internship with a bank, they can, during the summer for a 10-week period, they can pay you just under £1,000, in some cases more, on a weekly basis. If we then compare that salary or that earning with doing an apprenticeship, the apprenticeship as it stands at the moment, you're looking at having to work 30 hours a week, and you probably will be paid something like £3.50, £4 at the bottom end of your apprenticeship. But in some cases, you might get, depending on the organization, you could get uh, an annual salary of around £12,000 a year. That's at the top end of the apprenticeship. So when we compare the two purely from an earnings potential, an internship can provide a much bigger earning than apprenticeship. That's not to say that all internships deliver that level of finance. Some internships you do, and they might just pay you your travel costs and maybe a contribution towards your daily lunch. Some internships you do for free. It's, but you are still geared towards doing certain jobs and getting having certain tasks, and you are being interviewed during that period. At the end of the internship, you will probably go back to your studies. If you're unlucky and you haven't been successful, you'll probably go back to finding another internship. At the end of an apprenticeship, there's no guarantee of a job. There's no guarantee that the company will take you on, and you might be, after a number of years, be in a very similar position as someone who has done an internship. There are pros and cons for both. It's really about where you see yourself, the value you put on yourself, and the extent to which you want to build your career capital. There's also an element of how academic you are. Bear in mind that the higher paid internships will require you to possibly be at university or to go to university or to be going to university. The higher paid apprenticeships will require you to be operating more or less at the same level. But bear in mind that apprenticeships are training you for a specific job as opposed to looking at you and to see how you are in terms of a long interview. So in a nutshell, that first question, those are the basic differences. Clearly, if you want more detail, you can question us further, request a more detailed response by just emailing us at Alexander Partners. It's info@alexanderpartners.org.uk. And either myself or one of our other coaches, mentors will send back a reply. A second question that comes here is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of going into an apprenticeship? In many respects, I've touched on that within the answer to the first question, but in more detail, the advantages of going into an apprenticeship. First thing I believe you need to do is to consider whether or not you are academic. By that, I am not suggesting that only if you are getting, let's just say, 15, 20 A stars at GCSE and you're geared towards doing 6 or 7 A levels. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the extent to which you are academic in terms of you enjoy studying. Just because you are not getting the higher number of A stars and A at GCSE doesn't mean that you're not academic. In addition to which, we've got to remember that Just because you perform at GCSE doesn't mean that you will perform at A levels. Just because you don't perform at GCSE doesn't mean that you will not perform at A levels. But if we're focusing back on apprenticeships, a disadvantage, in my view, of an apprenticeship is that you are really gearing yourself to doing a lot of studying in your own time, whilst you are holding down effectively a job. And it's not really a career, it's a job whereby you've been trained, they're preparing you to do a specific task. That is not to say that all apprenticeships are like that, but across the board, in my view, in our view, that is, those are two significant disadvantages. Your earning capacity also is not going to be very great during the period of the apprenticeship. So what are the advantages of apprenticeships? The advantage of apprenticeship is that it does provide you with the opportunity to really come to terms with a specific task or a specific job. Now, historically, you had apprenticeships to do being a carpenter, or a plumber, and a mechanic. Those still exist. So we shouldn't be too blasé, we shouldn't be too negative about apprenticeships. But you've just got to remember that whilst you are being taught the skills, you will not necessarily be earning the level. Your income is not going to be as great as you might like it to be. Then there's no guarantee at the end of apprenticeship that you will get the job. After you've done your apprenticeship, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you will still be competing with individuals who have got degrees or who have A levels. They might not have the work experience that you have, but if you look at someone with a degree or A levels who has internship experience and has a higher level of academic achievement, then I believe outside the firm that has awarded you your apprenticeship, I think in a lot of cases, you might struggle in terms of getting progression through the system or getting a job with a different firm. So in a nutshell, those are some of the advantages and disadvantages, or more importantly, those are some of the things we think you should be considering if you are looking to go down the apprenticeship route per se. So that is as it stands at the moment. I think I have enough time for just one more question before someone is calling in to ask a question live. And the third question that sits on my desk is, what are the benefits of going to university? Now, the view we take is that going to university is far more than just studying. Going to university provides the young adult with the opportunity to grow, to mature, and to stand on their own 2 feet. That's not to say that at university you should not study. Yes, of course you should. That's not to say that you should not aim high in terms of your potential academic achievement. Of course you should. But whilst at university, there is the opportunity to grow, to mature, to try out new things, new sports, look at new opportunities. And you're able to do that in an environment that is a lot more supportive, an environment that is safe. So if I was going to summarize the real benefits of going to university, I would say that as a youngster, as a young adult, it's an opportunity for you to find out about yourself, to develop yourself in the direction that you want, to network with individuals of similar mind. And trust me, you go to university doesn't mean that you will like everyone at university, because like everywhere else, university is a collection of individuals. Some you like, some you don't quite like. And whilst at university, there is the opportunity for you to better yourself in terms of your ability to think, the ability to solve problems, and to learn about an area that you will find interesting. Just one last comment about university, and that is you will never find a course, there is no course that exists that I'm aware of, whereby you will like every module, every part of the course. The bottom line is that you might like 80% and dislike 20%. That's how life is. Just have to suck it up, have to deal with it. That's real life. Right, I think that there is supposed to be someone calling in with respect to a live question. But until I've been told otherwise, I think I should probably just answer the next question. Right, the next question before the live chat comes through is if I don't get my grade to go to university, what are my options? Now, grades at university, obviously we need to get the grades. What are your options if you don't get the grades? There are many options. First and foremost, if you are still wanting to go to university and you have missed your grades, there are so many safety nets that have been set up. If you miss your grades, you've just missed your grades, remember, there are two universities that you reserve. You have your first choice and you have your second choice. If you miss your grades for your first choice, then the university can still take you on. They do have a lot of flexibility in terms of who they take onto their course. They might decide that your personal statement was great. They might decide that, yes, they still want you, although you just missed your grades. Now, if they decide they do not want you, then the clearing system is still not something you need to go through because your second choice university might take you on board. Now, if you've missed your grades for your second choice university, they still have the option to take you on board. Now, if the first and second choice universities say, you're a nice person, but no, you've missed your grades and we're not going to take you on board, then that's where clearing comes into play. Now, there have been lots of changes to clearing, and the easiest thing once you go through clearing is to, before clearing happens, is to basically update yourself on the peculiarities of clearing. But in a nutshell, clearing is an opportunity whereby you can approach any on every university that broadcasts that they have a space. You approach them directly. You tell them the grade that you have acquired. They will look at the courses and you will look at the courses that are available through clearing. And then what happens is that they will say, yes, we'll take you on board. Or you could say, yes, I like this course. Now, you can go to university through clearing and get into some very good universities. You can get onto some very, very good courses. So just because you go through clearing does not mean that one, you're a failure, and doesn't mean that you are basically scraping the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Hi.
Hi, Bethan Hughes.
Yeah. So I am hopefully going to do a geography degree next year,
Right?
and I was just any advice on what extra curriculums I could do to maybe make me more employable, because I'm not too sure what I want to do after my degree. Do you have any advice on what I could just sort of get involved in order to keep my options open?
Well, first and foremost, I hope you will be successful in getting into to do a geography degree. What universities have you been offered places at?
Um, I've had all five of my offers back, so um, Birmingham, Nottingham, Southampton, Oxford Brookes, and Loughborough. But I've sort of whittled that down now to Loughborough as my insurance and either Nottingham or Birmingham as my.
Well, the three that you've whittled things down to, they're three very good universities. Therefore, any which way, I think you'll do extremely well. But before I tackle your actual question, just to say that, in my view, a geography degree often is underrated for a number of reasons. Geography as a subject has been trying to find itself, and in doing so, it has expanded into politics, it's expanded into parts of chemistry or geology in a much bigger way. The principal skills from a geography degree, I believe, is there's lots to do with research, there's lots to do with problem solving. There's lots of skills associated with working in a team, and really just coming to grips with wide-ranging problems that incorporate politics, that incorporate science, and of course the environment.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of what skills or what things you could do at university that would enhance your employability, which is your basic question, if I were you, I would do a huge amount of sports. Now, sports provides a large number of opportunities for you to demonstrate not only leadership, but a determination to succeed. Companies, employers like individuals that are driven, they like individuals that want to win, but ironically, they also like individuals who are able to pick themselves up after they have been knocked down. And what sports do you play at the moment?
I play netball mainly, but I'll give any sport a go really.
Oh, okay, okay. So, well, there is the issue of saying, well, when you play sports, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Mm.
But whether you lose or win, there's always the issue that there is another game. If you lose, how do you lose? There is an argument to say that, right, good winners are individuals who are good losers. And those are the things that companies like. They like to see that you've not succeeded. I'm not going to use the word failed. We use the phrase, you've not succeeded to the extent that you want, but you've got yourself back up and you have, so to speak, got back on the horse and you're driving yourself forward. So doing a lot of sports at a very good level, and you mentioned Loughborough, Birmingham, and the other one was Nottingham.
Mm-hmm.
All three universities are actually very good when it comes to sports, very competitive. So I would look at doing a lot of sports at university and balance that with your degree. There is one other thing, and that is companies like to see individuals organize things. People who are able to have a problem to do with organization, and people are able to organize other people to perform. Therefore, we could combine the two by, I don't know, you could start up a new sports club at university, and then you could drive that forward and, I don't know, win the inter-university national competition in this new sport of yours.
Right, okay, yeah.
So I would have fun at university and do a lot of sports, and remember that sports is not just about, let's say, making a list of activities and spending time on the field. It's about understanding yourself, knowing your limits, pushing yourself, and then broadcasting to that or those skills to employers when you start applying. Hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely go into whatever uni I end up at.
So I'll be able to see you playing netball for the England university team at some stage.
It's probably quite far off at the moment, but I suppose aim big and then work your way towards it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's a good target. There you go. There's a good target. It's been nice speaking with you.
Yeah, cool.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much for that.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, right. Just getting back on track. I'm told I've got to say something else. Before we move on to the next question, just need to remind anyone who's just coming on now that you're tuned in to Sort My Life Out Surgery, which has been organized by Alexander Partners, a firm of mentors and coaches. Coaches, not coaches. Yes, we are coach. We provide coaching, as opposed to being coaches. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Coached to Success. That's coached with the number 2 in the middle and success. The links will be in the video description on the screen at some stage. Also, sign up for our mailing list to receive updates about future events, workshops, handout sessions, and it says more. I'm not quite sure what the more is at the moment, but that's what it says. In a nutshell, contact us, see what we're about, and see the extent to which we can help you to develop your career capital and to move forward in your life and your career. Just now looking at another question before moving forward. We were talking about if you do not get your grade, and we got to the point of saying that both universities, your first and second choice, rejected you. You then go through clearing. In summary, clearing is a great opportunity to pick up a really good course at a really good university. And the skill about your A levels and applying to university, the skill is to get into university. Once you've got into university, whether you've got the grades that you're expecting or not, but once you've got into university, you're starting again. It's a fresh start. Everyone's got into university. Your colleagues that are there, you make new friends. It's then for you to basically put everything aside and say, right, I've got in, I've achieved that, and then push yourself with both academically, socially, and as I said just a moment ago, from a sporting point of view. So in a nutshell, that's what I would do. Those are the options you have. If you want to look at options outside going to university, then clearly you've got the apprenticeship route. You also have the option of finding a full-time job. And of course, the fourth option is to go back to studies, work a little bit harder, a little bit smarter, get a lot more support, and reapply to university the following year. That can be pretty tough. But remember, Rome was not built in a day, and you will be surprised at how many very successful individuals either took a year out or retook their A levels or looked at their studies in a slightly different way and perhaps studied later on in life. It's not disastrous if you miss your grades. It's not disastrous if you don't go to university. Before there's I think there's going to be another caller coming, but before that happens, the fifth question that's in front of me, and that is, what is clearing and how does it work? Now, ironically, I've just addressed that question, but if you do need any more detail on that, feel free to, as I said, contact us on info@alexanderpartners.co.uk. The sixth question is, it seems like a much longer question. If applying for 2 jobs, and the second job is the one that you really want, but you don't get it, should you accept the first job, although prospects are limited, or should you carry on applying for other jobs? That's a tough question. That's a tough question, and to be perfectly honest, it's a very tough situation to be in. It depends on your age, depends on your prospects as you see it. It also depends on how far down the employment route or path you got. For example, if you got to the stage of being the last two candidates or the last three candidates, and they had to choose one out of three, I would argue that very often, and in our experience, very often, when you get to that stage, the difference between candidates one, two, and three can be very, very small. Now, in that situation, do you want to keep on pushing, or do you want to maybe lower your sights and to get something that you really don't want? If you're in that situation, I would go back and I'd look to see what are the little things that you can do to improve your prospects at that final stage. And I suppose in that situation, I'm really saying, don't necessarily take the second option. Try again and push for a similar type of job, although you were rejected at the last stage. Now, if your rejection, or if you were not accepted, if we should put it that way, rather rejected, if you're not accepted midstream of the selection process, then it's a slightly different, no, not slightly, it's a significantly different situation. If you are not accepted midstream of the selection process, which might be, let's just say, after you submit your application, or even after the first interview, and there might be 2 or 3 interviews and assessment center before you get to a final interview, then I would re-examine your application in earnest. I would re-examine your CV. I'd re-examine how you present yourself. I'd also re-examine how you convey what you are wanting to do. I'm told that there is someone else that is coming live. Yes, and therefore I'll pick this up after this live question. Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. And I believe you got a question to do with.
Yeah, I do. So I'm in my final year of GCSEs. What can I
Okay.
do over the next 2 years in terms of extracurriculars and work experience to enhance my overall application for dentistry?
Right. So you're looking to final year GCSEs, and I assume you'll be doing moving on to doing A levels.
Yeah.
Yes. And you want to apply to do dentistry.
Yeah.
You are aware that dentistry is extremely competitive, and I'm sure the school and your parents and your teachers have told you that as with medicine, you've really got to be on your you've really got to hit those grades at GCSE.
Yeah.
Right. With dentistry, they are often looking for team players. The argument is that the dentist tends to be the team leader within the clinic. Therefore, anything that you can do that will demonstrate that you are actually a team player and possibly also a leader within the team environment, that will help to boost your application. So being a team player often shows itself with sport. It can also show itself with aspects of Duke of Edinburgh, and also associations or clubs that you might be a member of at school or even outside school. But rather than simply, let us say, be a participator within the club or association, or even the team itself, try to push yourself forward such that you stand out a lot more and perhaps lead the team, lead the association, come up with lots of initiatives that you can then push forward when you do your application, when you write your personal statement. Now, in the apps, well, it depends. What sports do you play?
I play a lot of golf.
Right. Now, golf is very much one. It's yourself and the ball and the environment, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But are there not team? Is there not a team element if you play in certain tournaments or in a club?
There aren't many like team opportunities or
Within golf?
yeah,
But what there is within golf, which is the other thing that the School of Dentists are very, very keen on, is dexterity control, dexterity and control. And I do believe that those are two significant attributes, characteristics that are needed when you play golf. Not that I'm a fantastic golf player, but one needs to demonstrate control even under very stressful situations. Correct?
yeah,
Therefore, if you're able to push your golf to a level that is pretty good, outside, say, my level of just puttering around and in fact missing all my holes when I do the puttering at the seaside, if you can push it whereby you play in tournaments, it will demonstrate good control and the ability to keep calm under stress. So that is the second aspect that dentist schools are looking for when they look to select individuals. A third thing that you could look at also is anything that demonstrates you're good at solving problems. Now, that might be associated with working in a charity shop and helping the charity shop to develop. And the fourth thing relates to your ability to work with individuals, not necessarily in a team, but can you coax individuals? Can you, if you volunteer, let's say, I should use the example of a charity shop. If you volunteer in a charity shop and you're able to work with a wide range of individuals in a manner that is positive, conducive, and relaxing, because I know whenever I go to a dentist, I'm as terrified as the next man.
yeah.
So those are the things I think you need to perhaps look at if you're looking to develop your personal statement.
Okay.
One last thing, and that is the schools like individuals who have done at least, say, a week in a dental practice. I think they prefer it if it's dental practice in the UK. You don't have to work in dental practice to the point of becoming a dental nurse, but they like to know that you understand the environment, you understand the situation that you'd possibly be in as you train and eventually become a dentist. So if you have the opportunity, find yourself some form of short-term work in a dental practice and just to experience a week, day to day, the day in the life of a dentist. Dental schools are very, very keen that is the case. Yes, I hope that helps.
Yeah, it did.
And perhaps one day you can teach me how to play golf.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Nice talking to you.
You too.
Okay. Bye. Just going back to the question to do with the job that you want, you've not been successful at getting, you settle for the next best thing. Got to the stage of saying that if you're not successful at the early stage of the application, then you really need to reconsider your application. And the best way to reconsider your application, or the best place to start, is to look at your CV, your resume. Is it structured in a way that is appropriate? Have you highlighted your strengths, your competencies, and what motivates you? Have you presented your experiences, whether it's work experiences, in the right way that actually presses the right buttons? Remember, a resume or a CV is not simply a list of what you have done. It's more a case of demonstrating the skills that you've acquired. And ironically, also, it demonstrates the challenges that you have had and how you have overcome those challenges. Therefore, that is something that perhaps you should look at before you take the opportunity that you regard as second best. If you choose to take the opportunity that you regard as second best, once again, that's not disastrous. Remember, at a very young age, between the age of 16 to 25, you have many years ahead of you in terms of working. And you probably, I said probably, you most likely have at least 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 careers before you reach the dizzy height of retirement. So starting somewhere is better than not starting at all. Having taken the second option, as you see it, then your challenge is to make the most of it and really push yourself into it, because it's easier to springboard from a position of strength, i.e. with a job, into another job than to springboard from a position of weakness, i.e. not a job, into a job. Not working for an extended period of time, which could be the case, can have some negative implication in terms of your level of motivation, in terms of your level of competence for skills that you have, but you've not really practiced them. So getting something is better than not getting anything at all. And don't forget, whilst you are working in this opportunity that you don't regard as where you should be, it doesn't stop you from applying for those other opportunities that you do want. So it's by no means disastrous, by no means at all. I have to do another social media announcement, which is basically saying, if you're just tuning in and you're watching the Sort My Life Out surgery, which is being put together by Alexander Partners. This is the first of its kind that we're aware of, and this will happen every Monday between 8 and 9. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and things goes at Coached to Success. That's coached with a number 2 in the middle, success. The links will be in the video description at the bottom of the page, I do believe. So feel free to sign up. If you sign up, you'll have access to all our future activities. You'll know when the workshops are, and there's a lot more things, articles and things that we believe are very useful for individuals in the age of 16 and 25, whether you're a school leaver or an apprentice within a work environment or leaving university to start your first job. Another question was, I think there is, I'm due to have another phone in. The light will flash at some stage. But another question that has been sent in, and that is to do with which are the better universities and which are the worst universities. Now, quite a provocative question. Better and worse are very, very definite statements. The view that we take is that whether you go to a university that is regarded as a red brick university or the Russell Group, although a university that isn't a member of the Russell Group. Ironically, if I just very briefly explain what the Russell Group is associated with, in a nutshell, Russell Group universities tend to be those regarded as being pretty nifty at doing research and development. They tend also to be the older universities, and therefore they tend to have a little bit more prestige associated with going to them. But putting that aside, if you are able to get into university, you can do just as well, whether it's a Russell Group or not Russell Group. That's not to say that all universities are the same. We have got to accept the fact that some universities are, it's harder to get to some universities than others. That's a fact of life. In the same way that some organizations are harder to get into than others. For example, if you're wanting to do consultancy, manage consultancy, get into the Bains or the McKinsey or the BCG, they tend to be somewhat harder than some other consultancy companies. It does not mean that the other companies are not as good. Neither does it mean that you joining one of these other companies will limit your ability to progress and to develop your career and develop your skills. It's all about horses for courses at a particular time in your life, in your career. You don't start at the top. Nobody starts at the top. What happens is that you start at a point which is appropriate to your career capital. You start at a point that is appropriate to the opportunities that's in front of you, and then you build from there. The key thing is that you choose to build from there and then you move forward. So realistically, the challenge that you have when you go to one university or you go to another university or you go to one company or another company, your challenge is that once you've got in, it's down to you in terms of how you deliver. Basically, it's down to you. Yes, it's going to be more difficult in some cases, but it's not impossible. And I think what we need to remember is that nobody starts at the top. You've got to work your way through, work your way up, and you work hard and you deliver, you capitalize on the opportunities. So going back to the question, whether a university is good, university is bad, there are no bad universities, they're just universities that have different ways of operating. In addition to which, matching your own personal style of learning is just as important as choosing the university. If you get it wrong, then it just makes learning that much harder. For example, if you want to do, I don't know, dentistry, as per the last caller, and when you do dentistry, some universities have a more problem-based approach to learning. Some universities have an approach whereby it is more geared towards the lectures and, let's say, the standard approach. Now, if you're someone who would prefer the problem-based approach, whereby you have a problem and you learn as you go along in groups, then that's great. But if you're someone who basically likes to sit in the lectures and work at your own pace and do assignments, then maybe a university course that is very driven by being problem-based is not for you. So one has to be realistic about it as well. I think there is supposed to be one more caller, but I'm not sure. Therefore, I shall go on to the next question and then probably be interrupted as usual, which is fine. I can do that. Right. The seventh question that has been sent in relates to, once again, relates to the choice between work and apprenticeship. The question is basically, if you have an opportunity to, say, work as a plumber, if you use plumber, or get an apprenticeship, which one would you choose and why? Once again, a tough question. At the moment, plumbers do very well, but being a plumber is very much a skill. It's a training, and you could argue that training to become a plumber is basically an apprenticeship. If you have the opportunity to do that, as opposed to just getting a standard apprenticeship in, let's say, an engineering company, or not, the engineering company, then okay, I would perhaps go for the plumbing because it's really, really solid. It's really, really sound. Um, the other issue to do with just getting a job as opposed to an apprenticeship generally, well, it depends on the job. If you get a job simply because you perceive that to provide you with a regular income, cash in your back pocket so you can buy a car and all the rest straight from school, that could be construed, it could be construed as being slightly short-sighted. If you had the opportunity to become a plumber, and it's not a formal apprenticeship, then I would probably go down that route rather than just simply getting a job. I do know that some individuals have left working in the city and trained to become plumbers and are doing extremely well financially. So it's once again horses for courses. Horses for courses. One last question. No, I've been told I've got to just remind everyone that what they're listening to. If you just tuned in late, I think we've got another 5 or so minutes before we end, which means I've got enough time for one last plug, one more question, and then the closing remarks. So if you tune in late, you're watching the Sort My Life Out surgery, which has been brought to you by Alexander Partners. It's the first time this surgery has been organized. It is geared towards supporting young adults from the age of 16 up to about 24, possibly 25. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Coached to Success. That's Coached with a number 2 and then Success. The links will be on the screen. You can also sign up for our mailing list to receive updates about future events, workshops, training courses that we deliver, corporate and individual training courses, and our general services, as well as, of course, our hangout sessions, which will run once a week on Mondays from 8 to 9. Right, one last quick question, and sounds like a very personal question, this, and that is, this is directed at me specifically, if I've been to university, then what is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me? Well, that's an interesting question. Now, I don't think I can answer that question because I can tell you some embarrassing things that have happened to other individuals. But if we can just say that whatever it was, everyone else found it very amusing. Anyone that knows me from university, please don't call in and spread any rumors or tell the truth and embarrass me further. It was fun afterwards, but it was not fun for me during that time. Yes, but I look back at it with great fondness, I think is the phrase. Would I do it again? Probably. Should I do it again? Probably not. But that's all part and parcel of university and growing up. I think I just have enough time now for the closing remarks. I want to thank you all for watching this evening, and to thank my guests for taking time to phone in and to speak with me. Also for all those who sent in their questions. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get through all the questions, but we will reply by email to any of the questions that have come in to date and any that are coming later. What we have to remember is that if you have any other questions or comments, feel free to send them to info@alexanderpartners.org.uk. That's info@alexanderpartners.org.uk. and perhaps we will get a chance to address them in our next session. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get updates every time there's a new surgery. Be sure to watch next week, of course, same time between 8 and 9 p.m. when we will be discussing, I think the topic of the day for next week is tips for competitive application. I'm assuming that's an application to do with university, to do with apprenticeships, to do with jobs, whether it is a job straight from school or a job straight from university. But yes, I've been told that the discussion will be tips for a competitive application. Once again, thank you again for your time, and I hope this first session was useful. It has been interesting. It's been an interesting thing to do, and quite enjoyable, in fact. And I hope to talk to you again next week. Thanks very much. Good night.